Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
I'm Bob. How's it going?
Welcome to what is going to be pretty much our only true frontside comparison for 2023.
Right.
Bob and I took quite a long time putting this together, and we kind of went back and forth. Like, do we want to split this up into really narrow skis, which is kind of this side of the wall,
Yep.
and then do a separate, wider frontside comparison? And there were a few reasons why we didn't do that. Probably the most important was just availability.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of duplicates that we can kind of
Exactly.
talk about too, where skis on this wall have a wider or narrower counterpart
Yep.
that we either did or did not have, or can just talk about it as kind of an honorable mention type of ski. But
Yeah, so we'll do that. I think this is like an interesting example, how we have Hero Elite skis. We also have Hero Master skis.
Right.
So we can kind of touch on those as we go through. And yeah, I think this is a fun comparison. I would say there's more similarities in the frontside category in general.
yeah,
Like we've talked about that before, as you go wider, you start seeing more variables in shape and construction and stuff like that. I'd say there's still a lot of variables in construction up here, but you start to see more similarities in shape and intended application.
right.
You know, especially over here on this side of the wall, you can make an overarching statement that the intended application is carving turns on firm snow.
Right, and we could end the conversation right there.
Right.
Yep.
So we're really looking at, excuse me, pretty specific differences in feel and
Yep.
responsiveness and stuff like that, rather than like, this ski you're going to ski moguls on, this ski you're going to carve on.
Yeah, and then the discussion into like race skis kind of pushes the wall that way, where we could have had an FIS GS ski up here and
Yep.
said whether you get a Fischer or a Head or a Rossignol or whatever it may
They're all gonna
be,
basically the same.
Yeah, the differences are so minute, but we kind of start at the recreational side of racing.
Yeah, and that's another thing that we talked about, since we're kind of going over all these things, is do we want to put an FIS race ski up here?
Right.
And ultimately, we decided not to. We have done that in the past. I'm pretty sure last year we had at least a FIS GS ski, and we
Yeah.
had that downhill ski too.
Yeah, it's fun.
Some fun stuff like that. But no, we're going to kick it off over here with this Redster X9s from Atomic.
Yeah, and this thing's pretty cool, incorporating really their race room wood core, so ultra power wood core. We see a difference with the Q9 there, which has just the regular power wood core. It's not
ultra.
So that's what you're getting with this X9, and then the similarly built G9, which we could have easily had up here, but
Another one that's just right over there.
yep, right on the other side of the wall.
Yep.
But this is the narrowest, 65.5 millimeters underfoot. So you're getting a ton of torsional stiffness out of this thing. Definitely better suited for that expert skier, former racer, someone who knows how to utilize that narrow waist width. And we'll
Yeah.
kind of talk about that up to like maybe the 72, where when you're on something, 65 underfoot, it just feels like you're on a hockey skate. There's no room for relaxation or errors. So when you're on something like this, you really kind of have to be, have that skill set to ultimately power the ski the way it's supposed to be powered. This also has their RevoShock technology. So these steel plates in here are floating in elastomer material. Really does a nice job of absorbing any of the vibrations, just by kind of moving. It's kind of a newer version of Volkl's that UVO object that they had, where this stuff is basically counter moving to the vibrations in the ski, keeping it really smooth. But just a great option for someone who knows how to turn a ski, is comfortable with a narrow waist width underfoot, and really wants that race-like feel. But again, not their full-on race ski.
It's like built like a race ski, but it's not shaped like a race ski.
Yeah.
What's the turn radius on there? I think 15.2. Be impressed if I got that right.
Dude, you got it right. 15.2 in this 175.
So that's considerably different than either a slalom ski or a giant slalom
Right.
ski. So that's where like I look at shape a lot of whether this is going to feel like a race ski or not.
Yeah.
And that is a cool ski because you get like the benefits of a race ski from the construction and technology side.
Yeah.
But the shape makes it a little bit more say user-friendly.
Right.
I don't know, that you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt anytime you say user-friendly with a ski like that. But
Sure.
it at least comes across the fall line more easily.
Yep.
Which I think there's a lot to be said about that.
Yeah, and a quick word on bindings. You know, most of these skis are a system, and you know they're all kind of appropriate for the level of ski.
Yep.
You know, there's not a huge difference in the performance of the bindings. Slight difference in kind of the application of the plate and stuff like that. And
Yep.
when we talk about this next Stockli, you know, that'll come up as well. But for the most part, we're kind of dealing with, you know, a head Tyrolia combo or a marker, you know, Salomon. They all kind of, I'd say like 4 major styles of system bindings on all of these skis.
Yep.
So pretty similar in terms of bindings, but you are getting them, which is nice.
There's only like a handful of like true outliers, I'd say, like this Deacon Master
Yep.
with the real piston plate. But yeah, I think you nailed it with like performance appropriate bindings.
Right.
I think you can kind of just leave it at that.
Yep.
Next ski here is the Stockli Laser WRT ST. We talked about this ski last year too. Great ski. I'd like to kind of just look at a few similarities in the shape between that Redster X9s and this ski. So we're, excuse me, we're moving up 1 millimeter in width to 66 underfoot. And this is a 14.8 meter turn radius. So very similar turn shape to that ski. I do think they just feel a little bit different, but basically accomplish the same thing. Very responsive, very rewarding frontside carving.
Yep.
Wood core in this ski, 2 sheets of metal, and carbon steering control. So a lot of technology in here. Of course, it's a Stockli, so we get that rubber dust and all the other cool stuff that they put in their skis. And I know that a lot of people that are watching this video are big fans of this ski, and it's no surprise why.
Right.
It's just incredibly rewarding. I do think, you know, that Redster X9s and this ski, there are some pretty significant limitations to them. Like
Yep.
for me, I mean, at least for me, anytime the snow gets a little bit variable or softer, I kind of struggle on them a little bit. They have that pro version of this ski too, so if you kind of want to take the performance to the next level, although it's not like this thing is by any means.
I don't think you need much more performance.
No, but I had a day on that pro, and I think it was the same day that you were skiing this, where the snow was a little bit softer and it would get catchy and bogged down. And I think we've shared the footage before, and I think there were some comments like, you got to get different testers, like that guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Right.
And like, I will certainly admit that I'm not the world's best carver, but I think it's like, in those situations, I think it's a little more of a limitation of the ski than the skier. But if you're sticking on really, really firm, perfectly manicured snow, this thing is so much fun.
Yeah, I think it was difficult for us both of us to get a good read on that and the pro version on that day.
Yeah.
Which, like, I hate complaining about soft snow.
Right.
You know, but getting on skis like that on that side of the wall will definitely make you do that.
Totally.
You know, you're like, this soft snow. It's like you hear
Right.
people complaining about powder.
Right.
And that's the type of skier that should be on something like that, but in those appropriate conditions.
And the thing that always gets me in those situations is like, you can feel the potential of the ski and you just can't quite get there, and it's like kind of frustrating. Like, I just want to feel like the full power of this thing and what it can do.
Yeah.
And we've had some really fun days on this ski and the pro as well. I don't think we have too much footage other than that softer day. So the real strength of this ski may not come through in the supporting skiing footage on it. But that's okay.
Yep.
We can't control the weather.
No.
But a fantastic ski. And a pretty significant contrast to the other Stockli that we have over there. And like, Stockli is a good example, kind of circling back to the conversation that we had when we started this comparison. They make like 12 skis we could put up here.
Right.
So maybe we'll do a Stockli frontside comparison.
This one, probably one of the, I would say, a top choice for a beer league ski on
It's
this
got to be.
wall.
It always has been a great
Yeah.
beer league racer.
This is the Blizzard Firebird WRC, so it does get more of that race room construction with the dense wood core, carbon spine and carbon armor. So they are running vertical carbon strips that go in between the stringers, kind of like what we see with Rossi's line control technology, and then as well like what we see with when we talk about the Liberty skis with their vertical metal technology. This is like vertical carbon technology. So in between those stringers runs these strips of carbon, and then they have a carbon plate underfoot, which really boosts the torsional stiffness. You know, it always surprises me that a ski company like this will take this strong wood core, 2 sheets of metal, and then add carbon to make it stiffer.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. And then put a plate on it, and then, you know, with the system binding. So it's just, there's a whole lot of strength and power going on with this WRC. 68 underfoot, 17.5 meter turn radius in this 175. So more of that mid-range GS ski versus those two that were a little bit more slalom oriented. So, you know, when you're looking at that beer league race or, you know, just a recreational race carver and want to do slightly longer turns, this is a great choice. But just a really, really strong overall feel and a great ski. You know, this comes in the HRC as well. And then we can talk about that kind of in comparison to the Thunderbird. But, you know, just a great, still in that narrow, under 70 millimeter underfoot, pretty reserved for racing specific applications. And current and former racers.
Yeah, and I think like, even though the turn radius is much shorter on those first two skis, like it still feels pretty similar, like a similar conversation.
Right.
Like you should probably have some sort of race background if you're considering those two skis, or at least like pretty accomplished technique.
Right.
Otherwise, you're just not going to get the most out of them. And there's plenty of other skis that up here that are great for somebody who maybe doesn't have the background or the technique to properly drive the ski. Like this Dynastar is like way more user friendly, and you're going to get like a similar experience on it.
Yeah.
You know, it's still a rewarding carving ski. It's just easier to get there.
Right. Whereas this is definitely more of a challenge to access that top end of performance.
Yeah. And good segue to this ski, this head Supershape E-Speed. These things are built very, very strong. So wood core, 2 sheets of metal. We get the energy management circuit in here. They are premium build skis. You know, we've done these frontside comparisons before, and I think this might be the first year that we've actually had a good Supershape representation. And really glad to have them up here. And we had a couple days, one specifically skiing with head, where at least you and I really focused on skiing the Supershape models, and it was extremely rewarding. And this one is a bit different than the first 3 skis that we've looked at with its 12.7 meter turn radius.
Pretty short.
So yeah, you mentioned slalom and how those first 2 skis were a little closer to slalom, or at least some like slalom influence in their turn shape and feel. This is like pretty much all the way to slalom ski.
Yeah, you are rolling that thing edge to edge, not letting it run at all. I mean, that thing wants to be in a carved turn.
Yeah, absolutely. It like kind of won't really do anything else.
Right.
If you're trying to just ski straight, it'll hook up and start turning.
Which is like a challenge for where we ski in Stowe with long top to bottom runs.
You're making a lot of turns.
You're making a lot of turns.
Yeah, I think I had 2 or 3 runs in a row on this ski, and it was like very rewarding, and I enjoyed the whole thing. But yeah, it's fairly fatiguing. But if you're, you know, if you're looking for that kind of ski, that kind of feel, like you just want you want to make a bunch of quick, short, super fun turns.
Yeah.
This is really, really good. And there are other skis that, like, you know, you mentioned the HRC. There's also the SRC here, which is more of a slalom cut. So most of the skis up here, they have
I mean, even yours has an alternate right here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They have some other version with a shorter turn radius, and I think the biggest thing to think about is that kind of demanding, fatiguing feel. Like if you live and ski at a shorter hill, something like this is awesome because then you're like maximizing the enjoyment of that shorter run.
Yeah.
I think you presented a great point. Like here in Stowe, it's a 2,000 plus vertical foot run, and this can get kind of tiring, but also very, very fun, very rewarding.
Yeah, we don't have any mid-mountain lifts here.
Nope.
So it's
you're going to the bottom.
You're going to the bottom.
Yep. But like if you were just to kind of lap the triple here at Stowe, more moderate pitched slopes, like a ski like this can handle that really well. I think we might have footage of it kind of making some shorter turns on a trail that's pretty darn flat. And it takes sections of the mountain that otherwise would be really boring and you would just straight line through, and it lets you still ski.
Totally.
And I think that's maybe the best thing about skis like this.
And a great point about these skis as a whole is that most of us are definitely skiing groomers most of the time.
Right.
And so you want to have something that enhances your experience on the conditions and terrain that the majority of your time is spent on.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons why we went with this versus the 110 millimeter comparison this week.
Also, more people asked for it.
It was like 2 to 1. Yeah. But, just like in reality, coming up November, December, we're likely skiing groomers. And we can kind of talk about our experience doing that when we get to the Thunderbird. But yeah, definitely a good point to bring up that these skis have a lot of real world application.
Yep. And I think this is another great example of that.
Yeah, so very similar in terms of cut and shape with that head. Slalom style turn, 68 millimeters underfoot, 13 meter turn radius. Really interesting ski from Dynastar. Again, you need to have that skill set to balance on that sub 70 waist. It just they're just twitchy.
Yep.
If you're not on edge, that thing either wavers or grabs.
And you still have the soft snow limitations.
Correct.
I'd say that ski is a little easier than these first two because the tip is wider. But yeah, there are limitations to skis like this for sure.
Poplar wood core in this one, VTech shaping as well, so more emphasis put on the edges. We see similar technologies with Black Crows and with their H-shaped metal, but putting that emphasis on the edge and having that be kind of the reactive part, I should say, Volkl as well, with the frame technology. So they're really putting more emphasis on the grip and the edge. Very turny ski, super easy and quick to get up on edge, and then just finishes the turn super nicely, but not like that super stiff flex that we're seeing from
I think
head.
We probably haven't shown flex pattern as much as we could have, but we started these first three are quite stiff.
Right.
Almost you can almost not hand flex them. This got a touch softer, and then that's probably the first one that's considerably softer.
Yeah, and there is metal, but it's not a full dual metal laminate, so it doesn't have that same stiffness, but just a really quick energy to this one. And they also have this in the 763, which is the longer turn radius, wider bodied format. So that's kind of a cousin to this ski in terms of it being having the same type of construction but a different personality. But really, really quick, super agile edge to edge, and just a lot of fun. Great groomer ski.
Yeah, and I think a lot of similarities to the Supershape Speed over here.
Yep.
I just think it's a little easier to ski, and you can kind of see a fairly substantial difference in the tip shape.
Right.
And I say substantial because
that.
Up here,
Yeah.
These differences are substantial. If we were looking at a wider all mountain category, and we saw those two different tip shapes, we'd probably say see how similar the tip shapes are.
Right.
But up here, when you're talking about precision and responsiveness and how the ski is interacting with really firm snow, those differences go a long way.
Right.
Next ski up here, and it sort of feels like we're taking us 2 steps back to this WRC, because I feel like this ski sits more in that conversation than these past two skis. This is the Deacon Master. Sorry,
Gotcha.
Bob. This is the Deacon Master 72. This thing's basically built like a World Cup ski, gets all that same technology, but it's a little wider, so 72 underfoot. So what's the jump that we just made?
4 millimeters.
Yeah, so a pretty
it's like a lifetime.
It's a pretty significant jump.
Yep.
And then turn radius on this ski, 16.4. So a little longer than these first two skis we looked at. And this actually, to me, similar to what you were saying about that WRC, I think it's actually a really good beer league ski.
Yep.
I think like oftentimes people that are participating in stuff like that or are looking for a giant slalom ski, they get hung up on like closer to 20-meter turn radii. Like I've done that before, where I'm like, no, I can't ski that because it's only a 16-meter radius, where I would probably benefit more from this in our local ski bum race than the ski that I actually use.
Yeah, and like how many times are you actually adhering to that arc? Like if there's 20 turns in our course, how many get the number that is printed on the ski?
More in our course than would with a 20-meter ski.
Right.
Way more.
Yeah, and I think most beer leagues and like masters level races are like that.
Yeah, and even just if you're not racing and you like the idea of like what we like to think of as a giant slalom turn,
yeah,
I think that like this is going to provide that for most skiers. Obviously there are people out there that specifically want a longer turn radius, but if you're thinking consumer fun GS ski, I actually like to kind of point people in this direction because it's just a little bit more rewarding. And like, we're not World Cup skiers. I can't bend a ski like those guys can. So this kind of at least gives you a similar experience.
Just bringing you a notch closer.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
And we mentioned the plate. This is kind of a nod to the fact that this really is like built like a race ski. You get a true piston plate on here, where a lot of skis up here, I guess that Stockli would be the exception.
Yeah.
But a lot of these skis get what we would consider a system binding, something that's on a track.
Yeah.
But awesome skis, super fun, very stiff.
Yeah, and then kind of in that same Deacon family, 72 master, 76 master.
Yep, and then 72 non-master
yep.
and 76 non-master.
And those non-masters get the R-motion
Yep.
binding, so that's a system.
Yep.
And those non-masters also get just their regular multi-layer wood core. They don't get the full ash wood core that the master versions of the skis get.
And then like, we're also like completely omitting race tigers.
Right, so they make a Race Tiger GS, which is like
Exactly.
their beer league ski that they market as a beer league race
A little
ski.
narrower,
Yeah.
a little longer in the turn radius. But again, I would probably make the argument that more people would benefit from this.
Yep.
And it's really fun.
Yeah, totally.
I like every time I get a chance to ski these, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, and the other thing they add is 3D glass, and then the Taylor Titanal,
Right, they've got a lot of technology
tailored
in
carbon.
here.
Yeah, so it does add energy and responsiveness to that burly wood core.
Yep.
Yeah, next up we got K2 Disruption MTI.
I feel like there's some similarities between this ski and that ski.
Yeah, this definitely is the less race-oriented of the two, but shaping and I think quickness,
Yeah.
they definitely have a lot of similarities.
And it's interesting because it's like less race-like because K2 doesn't make race skis.
They don't make race skis. They just make high-end carving skis.
Yep.
And we could have gone a couple of different directions with K2 and Disruption. We didn't have a TI2. The 82 Ti I thought was a little bit of an overlap. We just have a lot of 82s over here.
Yep.
So MTI it is, and a great frontside carving ski. These are 74 millimeters underfoot.
Let's see if I can get this right again. 18.1 meter turn radius.
You got it, 18.1, so a little bit longer. We're dealing with that wood core and the Titanal I-beam. So extending as a spine into the tips and tails and then full width underfoot. Really does a nice job of smoothing out the snow. You know, it's not like that dual metal laminate, but it sure is pretty stiff.
I think that ski might have like the dampest and smoothest feel of anything up here.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That it's, you know, a recreational build.
It's just like, yeah, it's just the way that they build it.
Yeah.
With that dark matter damping and stuff.
Yeah.
And it has more of a like kind of woody sound to it.
Yeah, dark matter, this futuristic polymer in the tips and in the tails.
Pretty similar to how you described RevoShock.
Yep, it just kind of does a great job of filtering out those unwanted vibrations and, you know, strategically placed in those heavier vibration zones. And then we get a beefed up sidewall underfoot. So that orange section is just a denser version of that sidewall. Sits right below that plate and really gives you a ton of good edge grip and energy. You know, my first impressions of this, what was it, almost 3 years ago now?
Yeah, if not 4.
You know, I hadn't been on a ski this narrow in a long time, and, you know, became pretty clear to me really quick that there's a big market for skis like this in a lot of areas.
Yeah, there's so much fun.
There's so much fun. You know, what percentage of days is this a better option than even an 88? You know, like K2's Mindbender 89 Ti. Fantastic carving ski.
Right.
But how many days is that a better option than this at 74 millimeters underfoot? Like, are you really getting off the groomers that much?
Right.
Or do you just prefer a wider ski? You know, and those are considerations to take into account for sure. But for something 74 underfoot, strong build, really true tip to tail edge contact, super smooth ski, very agile underfoot. That what caught my mind right away was, wow, is this thing quick underfoot? You can get from one turn to the next, you know, right away.
Yep.
And part of that is that longer turn radius, is that you're able to manipulate it easier than what we see from Head or the Dynastar with that more slalom cut where, yeah, it's a shorter arc, but you can make quicker, more agile turns on this that you're putting the input into rather than the ski telling you what shape turn you must make. So a little bit more versatility in turn shape with the longer radius, which I really enjoy for sure. But just a great ski. Psyched to see this thing back. You know, Disruption is very interesting in that they start really ground up, snow up from, you know, a ski development perspective. They're not relying on race room technology. They're saying what works well, starting at the base, and let's move our way up and come up with something that a lot of people will like. And I think that that's a really effective way to build a carving ski.
Yeah, and it's like super interesting just coming from K2 as a brand.
Right.
And like this, I'll preface this by saying like this is a very high-end, very responsive ski. When I first tested these skis, I was on a trip with K2 in Mount Hood, and they like got us all to like grouped us up at the top of our first run, and they like got really serious, and they were like, guys, we're testing like high performance frontside carving skis. Like you guys need to be careful. Don't like push it too hard. Like these skis might beat you up a little bit. They're stiff and they're powerful. And I was like quivering in my ski boots. I was like, oh my gosh, like what have I gotten myself into? And I don't think these are punishing skis.
Right.
I think they reach like a really nice level of performance, and like it's plenty of ski for most people, but something about the way that they're built and feel is they don't feel punishing to me.
I think the 82 is more punishing than that
I
one,
think so
just
too,
because
with the more mass.
there's just more stuff. Yeah.
And I think the TI2 is kind of punishing too. As a little more background, I raced on this ski for a year.
Yep.
Had a great time.
Yep.
And then ultimately was lucky to get a pair of TI2s and started racing on those. And that's a stiffer ski with a longer turn radius, and like I probably would have better results if I just stayed on this.
That TI2 is fun though.
It's just fun. It's fun to push yourself on a ski like that.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I enjoy it. Next ski up here is the Rossignol Hero Elite MT. So this ski's been around for a little while now. It's undergone some changes in its lifetime, but very, very rewarding carving ski. And would you agree that it's somewhat of an outlier compared to everything that we've talked about so far.
Yeah, I would say like maybe the Dynastar.
That's the ski
just
that I was gonna.
from a construction perspective, not
Right.
having that true race room build
Right.
is probably your best comparison.
Yeah, so we get metal underfoot here, and then more reliant on that carbon alloy matrix material that Rossignol uses in a lot of their skis. So pretty cool. You know, I'd say it like gives this ski a noticeably softer flex in the tips and tails. Like, I'm actually quite impressed how much that tail is bending.
Yeah.
And when you think about MT, multi-turn, that really helps the ski make a bunch of different turns.
You need to be able to flex the ski in order to get it to turn.
To make different
So
turns.
Having that increased flexibility goes a long way in allowing for accessibility to those different turn shapes.
Yep. And we're 74 underfoot here with a 15-meter turn radius, and that gives us a pretty nice wide 123-millimeter shovel.
Yep.
So if you're just talking about like going out and skiing, like just a fun day of exploring the resort and skiing, this is a really, really good choice because it'll handle some softer snow conditions. Like when we were over here talking about how these skis kind of get bogged down and can feel catchy and you like can't make them do what you want them to do in soft snow.
Yep.
I think you can on this. I always feel like this ski, it'll handle a softer groomer. You know, this shovel, it's wide enough up here that it kind of just, it doesn't like knife into the snow and then get all catchy and weird. It kind of knifes in but then gives you a little bit of float too.
Yeah, probably the driftiest ski we've had
So far? Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of fun on this ski. I think it's a really good ski to have on the market. You don't see as many of these as I feel like you should on the mountain, which I suppose you could say about all of these skis, but
Yeah.
I don't see too many people skiing Hero Elite skis, and they're awesome.
There's a handful at Stowe, and they ski lift line a bunch, and they actually go off and like ski the moguls on them.
Right.
And well too.
Right.
And so I'm always impressed when we're riding up and see this group. And I think they're instructors. I'm not sure, but they make it look good in the bumps.
Yep.
And I wouldn't, you know, if you said on this wall, what's the best bump ski? I don't think that would be at my top. But
I mean, it's got to be something over there.
Yeah.
But for this width range, this is really good.
Yep.
Can handle some different conditions. Kind of speaking to like those honorable mention skis that we mentioned that we would include at the beginning, Rossignol makes those Hero Master, and they make Hero Athlete too.
Yep.
So if you want to break down Rossignol's like frontside skis, this is 2 steps down from like the World Cup athlete level skis. And we had quite a lot of testers, including Bob and myself, on some Hero Master skis this year. And those are great.
Yep.
You know, we're a little bit more in like this Deacon Master conversation and the Firebird WRC and skis like that. But if you're a Rossignol fan and you want more of a race build and race feel, check out those skis because they're awesome.
Yeah, and then that also comes in LT and ST.
Yep.
Those have different builds.
Yep.
Those are the denser wood core, 2 sheets of metal. So there is a difference between this MT and those longer and shorter turn radius skis.
Yep.
Interesting what Rossignol's done with the Hero Elites this year, and I think that MT is a great representation to have up on here because it's different. You know, we put that LT up here, and there's too much similarities.
It's just the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also, like, this is something that I just thought of right now. Rossignol has, like, this is just a guess, 25 skis that are really, really good carving skis. And it could be more because it crosses all the way into the Experience line.
Yep.
We have the 82 over there. But even that, like, Experience 86 Ti, we often talk about that being, like, one of the best carvers in its category.
Yep.
So Rossignol knows that carving's fun.
They got a thick catalog, too. They got a lot of skis.
They do. They have a lot of skis.
This is a good one, too. We're bumping up to 76 now. And, you know, the 76s, I think, in general, have a really nice application and kind of sit in a nice zone in the front side category. You know, you could certainly make an argument that 72, 74 is, you know, better for pure front side skiing, but 76 might just have that little bit of extra versatility to it that make them better choices for more of a daily driver.
Less catchy. It's
Less
like
catchy.
going back to that,
Yeah.
like I often think about those days on these really narrow skis and just how challenging they are, where that ski, and kind of going back to how we were describing this ski, yeah, it doesn't need to be like a perfect day.
Right.
It can be a little bit sketchy snow condition day.
Yeah, it does hold up to that. This is the Dobermann Spitfire 76 RB. You know, full performance wood core in this one, 2 sheets of metal. We got carbon bridge technology. So I guess kind of this is their version of Volkl's tailored carbon tips, where they're using carbon to help with the initiation, lighten the swing weight, and increase the responsiveness. So it does a really nice job of taking that initiation phase and really making it simple, smooth, and quick, so that you're into the meat of the side cut faster than you would be otherwise. So pretty cool technology built into there, but super solid ski, very much like what we see with WRC and HRC. This is basically the Nordica version of the HRC. 7,600 foot, 16 meter turn radius in this 174. So just bumping up a meter from the 15s, a little bit more input on you, the skier, as to what ultimate shape you're going to have on this thing. But another great choice for, you know, for that beer league, for a skier that wants to ski as, you know, to ski and incorporate the race as part of your day.
That's part, yeah, sure.
I think that this is a really nice option for that. It does have that more race-like mentality than what we'll talk about next with that Thunderbird, but still on the more accessible side.
Yeah, Brad raced on those a few times and loved it.
Yep.
Worked perfectly for him.
And this also comes for this year in a 72 and an 80, same build, just different widths. So
yeah, you can sort of customize your application there.
Right. I can't imagine someone buying all three, but
yeah, boy,
I'm never going to talk anyone out of buying more skis.
I'd have a hard time getting behind that decision, but sure, if you want to do it, go for it, I guess.
But just a great nod to Nordica's racing heritage, and, you know, solid as you're going to get.
I will also say that the 76 is my favorite. Having spent time on all 3 of those skis, I just like that waist width, because it's still quick edge to edge, but it's a little bit more user friendly. And then that, you know, you get up into the 80 and you start losing some of that precision, which I think is really fun. So Bob alluded to this ski, this Thunderbird R15 wide body from Blizzard, and this is basically the exact same shape as the Firebird HRC, but with a less aggressive build. So that's the best way to think of this ski, but you know, it still has tip-to-tail metal. It's still a strong ski. It's just like a little bit more user-friendly, a little bit less of a race feel than this ski. Part of the way that Blizzard does that is with their True Blend wood core, so they're really able to control different sections of the ski. That's allowing them to just give these tips and tails just a little bit more of a supple flex pattern. But I think Bob mentioned like our days testing this ski, and that was almost a full year ago now, like early December of last ski season. And we were kind of just discussing skis that we wanted to test and review, and this came up, and we had skied it but hadn't spent like a ton of time on it, and it was unbelievably rewarding to get on this ski for a few days in a row. And Bob and I just kept coming back to the fact that like everyone should own a ski like this. And I think you can take that concept and like stretch it out on this whole wall. You know, it doesn't necessarily need to be this one. Right. But I think everyone should own a ski in this range. If you have the means, if you can like afford to have a narrow ski like this, it's just, it makes those like low snow, early season days so much more rewarding. Super fun in this ski. We were skiing with snowboarder JG on those days, and I think
this is awesome.
That's like my favorite way to describe how good this ski is like we stopped, and JG was just kind of like in awe, like
Right.
shock and awe. And he was just kind of like, why doesn't everyone do that?
Well,
Like that,
yeah.
that looks like so much fun. Like you guys are just having so much fun.
Like we had skied with him a few days on probably 88 to 95 millimeter
Right.
underfoot skis, and I'm sure he's like, great, they look like every other skier out there.
Right.
And then we're skiing on this, and he's like, you guys look so much different today
Right.
than I've ever seen you before.
Right.
Like, what's the deal?
And we were like, it's just the ski is
Well,
so much
JG,
fun.
it's this ski.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And you could see the light go off in his head
right.
even as a snowboarder.
Right.
He's like, oh, well, that just makes so much sense.
Right. Right. And that kind of like that sent us down like the
Yeah.
rabbit hole. Of
Yeah.
like, yeah, everyone should have a ski like this because
Right.
like look how much fun we're having right now. So if you want just a super rewarding carving ski, you're not worried about racing or anything like that, I would take a strong look at these Thunderbirds.
We were, I think, 40 days into the ski season.
When we
And
skied these?
When we skied those, and I kind of looked back and said, well, we could have skied those for 38 out of these 40 days.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Totally.
the percentage of time that we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not just like 1 out of 10 days.
No. I think Blizzard did a great job with those skis.
Yeah.
And if you like the shape there but you want a little more ski, you can go get the HRC.
Yeah.
And we've talked about how good that ski is too. I just like the fun factor and approachability here. I really think they've got a winner in
Yeah.
that Thunderbird.
We got a Sport TI as well in that shape,
Yeah.
one build down.
Yeah, and that was I'm glad you brought that up because I felt like there was a pretty big difference between
Yeah.
the Sport TI and this ski. The Sport TI, I felt uncomfortable committing to turns that I wanted to make. And the ski felt a little twitchy and
Yeah.
unstable, where I never felt that way on this ski.
Right.
It has plenty of stability for somebody like myself, and I would venture a guess that it has plenty of stability for, I don't know,
Most
90,
strong and aggressive
95%
skiers, yeah.
skiers.
Yep.
And then that top 5-10%, those are people that want to move over here into
Right.
like true race builds. But
Yep.
great ski, and I think a similar conversation in this ski.
Totally. Just a different feel, I think, with this Atomic. It's the Redster Q9. Very similar to that X9s in terms of its use of RevoShock, same binding platform and plate.
Right.
We are wider and we are a wood core more friendly. I don't want to say softer, but
Sure.
it is.
It's not ultra.
It's not ultra, it's just power. But you can feel a little bit of a difference in the flex. We do have that RevoShock, those steel plates that float. So you get a very similar, anti-vibratory feel out of this. Very smooth,
Yeah.
just a little bit wider. So we are in the mid 70s. Boy, they print these numbers really tiny here.
Pretty sure-
14.3 meters on this 176. So, a little bit shorter. And, that R15 is 15 meters into 174. So just a tiny bit of a shorter turn radius, a little bit wider of a tip. And that's why it's closer to me on this side of the wall. But just a great choice for that skier, basically, that's looking to incorporate clean carved turns into their day, and they want a wider bodied ski to do it. So it's a great choice.
Yep.
There's not much else to say. It's a
No, that ski's awesome.
Yeah.
I tried to race on the Redster Q9.8,
Yep.
so the wider version of
wider
that ski,
than this, yeah.
and it kind of didn't work. I think it was a pretty challenging day
Yeah.
for a ski like that, very, very firm. So there are it's not a race ski.
Right.
There are just in the same way that we were talking about this ski, if you're if you have specific demands like that,
Yeah.
it might not work for you, but yeah, a very rewarding ski. And
Yeah.
I did, I skied the 9.8 more than I skied that 9, but basically the same feel, and they're super fun skis.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically out of race category now.
For the rest of the comparison, 100%.
Going from recreational carver to wide,
I think we left
narrow
that,
all mountain.
felt like we left that conversation about
Yeah.
right here, right
Yep.
after that MTI.
But they're still borrowing a lot of the technologies from that to make this thing just super fun, in a wide variety of conditions as you get that wider, wider shovel, like Jeff was saying with the Rossignol, you know, it just makes it a little bit easier to get into and out of the turn, as well as accessing that side cut. So you can, you know, like you were saying about the tail, like definitely some bend there.
Yep.
But that's good for getting the, you know, getting the entirety of that side cut.
So next ski, and kind of an interesting one to end this side of the wall with, this is the Scott Pure Piste 77, and I would say compared to the first 11 skis that we've talked about, this is a fairly significant outlier. Obviously there's some similarities in the shape, 77 underfoot, you know, it's built and shaped, or it's shaped like a true carving ski.
Yeah.
Like we don't have tremendous amounts of rocker in here or anything like that. The big difference between this ski and everything else that we've talked about is this thing is really lightweight.
Yep.
And you see it in that flex pattern too. It's a little bit softer flexing, more of a round flex pattern, where some of these skis, like this ski had a noticeably different flex in the tip compared to the tail. This has just a round flex pattern. Some limitations in this ski for pure carving application. Because it's lighter, it doesn't have the same amount of torsional stiffness. We really only get metal like right underfoot here, and then the rest of the ski is more reliant on carbon than anything else. So yeah, it's not going to feel like these skis over here if you're really driving a carving turn, but it can carve if you're like just less aggressive. You know, you're not like smashing your tip into the snow as you drive your carving turn. It's a very rewarding ski. I spent an entire powder day on this ski, and I had a blast.
Yeah, we have some pictures to prove it too.
Yeah, we have some like really funny pictures of just like smashing through pillows and stuff on this ski. And I thought that was really cool that you can have a ski like this that's quick edge to edge and rewarding and responsive on firm snow. Doesn't feel like a race ski, but then you can take it off trail, you can ski moguls on it, you can ski trees on it, you can ski powder on it. It's just it's just funny to think back, like, none of us really need skis that are super wide. They're really fun. Like, it's awesome that we have all these super wide rocker skis, but you can have a great day of skiing and do anything on your local mountain on a ski like this.
Right, like 8 to 10, 12 inches of snow.
Totally.
Like, that's what we had that day, and it was fine.
Yeah, so really cool ski. I'm happy to have more Scott representation in our comparison videos and just in all the skis that we sell on our website. So take a look at these Pure Piste 77s, because they're pretty unique. You know, I would say that not many manufacturers are like putting that construction into a shape like that.
Right, just a flat, like, you know, entering the phase of narrow all mountain skis.
Right. It's like kudos to Scott for kind of thinking outside of the box and like building a ski that they wanted to build instead of following industry trends.
Yeah, and my big takeaway from Scott in general is that their skis are just very intuitive and well-rounded and versatile.
100%.
Whether it's the 77, the 90, or the 98 we got on this year. Just a really good overall feel. You hop on it and you go.
Yep.
You know, you don't have to think about them, which is
you're
great.
like, oh, this is great.
Yep.
This works.
Yep.
Cool. I'm going to go skiing now.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Next up, we got a head Supershape E-Rally. Kind of a lot of the things that we said about the E-Speed can be said about this. We're bumping up about 10 millimeters in overall width, I would say.
And some bumps up in turn radius too.
Yep, so 78 underfoot on this one, 14 meter turn radius in this 170, but same construction overall with the wood core. We get graphene, carbon, energy management circuit. I would love to get an engineer in here and kind of walk us through.
Convince us why it does something.
Yeah, tell us why it does something. But like, in all honesty, like, I'm less convinced in the how and the why, and and more.
Cares?
I don't care.
Right.
I'm more interested in the fact that this is about as smooth and stable of a ski as you're going to get on this wall. Super impressive, tip to tail. You know, we didn't really get a look at the tail of that Speed, but I mean, you know, we could say that pretty much all of these skis have squared off tails, but kind of always say that these heads take it to the next level. In terms of being just super flat and
it looks like a race tail.
Yeah, full-on race tail, and you can definitely feel that thing. So from tip to tail, that solid, long edge contact really just makes for a smooth feel And I felt like, and like you said, like we hadn't really put a lot of time and snow onto Supershape. So when we did this year, it was even more impressive because we've just been kind of living on, you know, theoretical experience.
Yep.
But getting on these things and getting that empirical data was really impressive. And just, I felt like these make incredibly high edge angle carves. You can really lay this thing over. No variance, vibrations whatsoever. Just about as confident as you're going to get on a carving ski.
Kind of like a similar, like, just reaction to skiing this.
Yeah.
Where it makes you just kind of like feel like a better skier.
Like I felt like that was more fun, but this was more powerful and business-like.
And I was just going to say, I think that's a little more ski.
Yeah.
But like, similar, just like emotional reaction.
Totally.
You're just like, oh, this is so much fun.
Yep. No, 100%. And I feel like this is kind of, for me, the sweet spot for Supershape at this 78 millimeter width. You know, we go Magnum one step lower and then Titan one step wider. But I think this 78, for what this ski is designed to do, for me, works pretty well. So great getting on these things and giving them a good go this year. I thought that the head ski day was one of my favorites because we got to get on these and we had great firm conditions for it too.
Yeah,
which was
super
really
fun.
nice.
You spent a lot of time on that rally.
Yep.
I pretty much split between the Speed and the Titan, which was funny, kind of just going from like narrowest to widest. And yeah, they're all just very, very rewarding. And it's cool because you can like just pick which waist width you want. And you're going to get like at least more or less consistent performance throughout the Supershape line. I probably have time here to throw in some footage of like Titan and stuff like that, because Titan could be on this wall.
Yeah.
It'd be like right there.
And great skis for sure.
Yep. This is the Stockli Montero AX. We've already talked about this ski quite a bit. We did a full review of this ski. A lot of people were very interested in it. I got a pair through two walls that belongs to me.
Yeah, they got your name all over them.
In theory. I could go physically write my name all over them. But awesome ski. You know, they took the Laser AX and just tweaked it a little bit, so we're up into 80 underfoot here. 15.5 meter turn radius in this 173. 2 sheets of metal in this ski, and we get flex torsion control, so they're kind of just allowing the tips and tails to articulate a little bit, smooth out turn initiation. A little bit of a softer flex than you'd see in like a Laser GS or something like that. A couple people we've seen a couple comments recently that people were disappointed that they put tail rocker into this ski, and I wish I could just like squash all your concerns by telling you that like, no, it's fine. And I don't know, like, no, I'm sure a lot of those people just won't believe me and they still want no tail rocker on paper, but like there's really not much back there. And the kick out of a turn on this ski is still excellent.
It is way up there.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I don't really know why you'd want more. But 80 underfoot, fantastic carving ski. You can mount a flat binding on it. I put a pivot on mine, which I think is going to be super, super fun. So extremely rewarding as a carving ski.
Yeah.
But there's some versatility to it as well. So like kind of going back to this ski and how we could have skied that ski like 38 of the first 40 days of the season. If we're not out there testing for Ski Essentials, I plan on skiing this like 38 of the first 40 days of the season.
Yep.
Like obviously I'll take my park skis out and do some stuff like that, and if we happen to get like an early season powder day, yeah, I'm going to take a different ski, but otherwise I'm just like psyched to have a Montero AX that I can use and like really just maximize enjoyment. And no, it's not a race ski. Like 80 underfoot, it's not built like a race ski either. It still has all that Stockli premium quality. It still is like plenty torsionally stiff in my opinion, but it's not a race ski. It still allows somebody like me to get full enjoyment of those groomer days, but I like being a little wider.
Yep.
You know, I appreciate the benefit of going narrower, but
No,
if
I
I'm
feel
not
like
racing, like this is plenty narrow for somebody
Yeah.
like me.
yeah, and definitely more of like a full-time shape as
Exactly,
opposed
right.
to
This feels
something.
more. This feels the most like a daily driver
Yep.
of anything that we've looked at so far. With like maybe this being the other one that I
Right.
put into that conversation. But yeah, pretty versatile.
Yeah, smooth and quiet. You know, that's kind of what we talked about with most Stocklis, and you know, moving into Montero as well. You know, whether you're Storm Rider, Montero, even the Laser,
Yeah,
smooth and quiet, and that's kind of what gives them that premium price too.
yeah, pretty expensive.
Yep. But I mean, when you get on them, it's pretty easy to tell that that's where that money goes, is into
Yeah,
the silence and smoothness of the skis.
yeah. But I think worth pointing out, like the price of this ski as a flat ski exceeds the price of most everything else up here that comes with a binding.
Yeah.
So
But
you got to kind of consider that in your
Yeah.
budget.
For sure. And if you're putting a high dollar pivot on it too, then you're really getting up there.
Yeah,
That's okay. You want what you want.
I'm gonna get some looks in the lift line. Who's that guy with his Monteros and his pivots?
It's pivots. I guess this is a good way to go the exact opposite way and
Exact
say,
opposite. Cheapest
here is
ski
your
up here.
yep, here is your value-oriented option on this wall.
Yep.
But that said, like it's the same construction as the Stance 84, which we have like loved skiing.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing wrong with Salomon Stance 80 for a huge variety of skiers. And we can kind of incorporate Volkl Deacon 80 into it as well. This is more of an all-mountain option versus Deacon, which fits a little bit more of the front side bill.
Totally.
But, I mean, the range of sizes, like I looked it up, this starts at a 141 and goes to a 185.
Yeah.
So, like, even just the sizes available in this ski make it so accessible for so many skiers.
Put the whole family on it.
Everyone can be on a Stance 80.
Yep.
We still have metal underfoot. We have carbon stringers in the tips and tails. It's a poplar wood core. Like, it's a real ski. Even though, like, we have it in a package. Like, we just made a package video for this.
Yep.
You know, we sell this thing here with boots and bindings. So there's a lot of value to be had, and it does not come at the cost or expense of performance. Like, these are great skis. It's an awesome setup.
Yep.
So, you know, whether you're a progressing intermediate, you want something that's going to be your daily driver for years to come, like this is the most sensible ski up here. And that's just, I think, a good way to think about it. Like, it's not going to blow the doors off like that Deacon 72 is, but most skiers are, I would say most skiers who get this aren't even going to hit the top end of the performance.
Right.
So there's just a big range.
Yeah. What did you describe? What did you say? Developing intermediate, progressing
But
intermediate.
progressing intermediate.
I was, as you were saying that, I was thinking like you could go up all the way to a what I would describe as a budget conscious expert.
Right.
Like there's no reason why an expert skier couldn't ski that and enjoy it. Like
Right.
I think you've proved that with the 84, like ripping around Alta.
Right. Yeah,
What more do you want?
I don't know. You know, and like at 80 underfoot, like it's just super well rounded, and I think Salomon just nailed it. And like, you know, I would say that we probably will sell a ton of these this year.
I think so, and
Yeah.
rightfully so. And like you could get that and a really high performance boot
Yep.
and a pair of poles and like probably go get a new pair of goggles too, and you're still under the price of a flat Montero AX. And like that, like you can't just ignore those things.
Right.
Like there's a tremendous amount of value there. And I feel like sometimes when we're talking about like value in skis, like people probably just think that we're just like trying to sell, like just move units of like
Right.
these less expensive skis. But like I don't think Bob or myself ever says something about a ski if we don't like really, really mean it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wouldn't stand here and say that that's a really good ski and there's a lot of value there if I didn't truly believe it.
Yeah, and just super versatile. You know, I would say that so far it's the most versatile ski on the wall from a variety of different perspectives.
Yep.
And value is one of those.
Yep. Kind of continuing the 80 underfoot ski theme here. This is the Volkl Deacon 80. So I liked how you kind of you talked about the versatility of that ski and how it's like more all mountainy, where this goes back and leans more towards being a wide carving ski.
Yep.
This is very, very similar to the Deacon 84, just a slightly different build in this ski, some changes to the materials, but still a very, very strong ski here. And it's like, I love the Deacons because it just feels like they put all of their technology
It all goes in
it.
there, yep.
You get like 3D ridge, you get 3D glass, you get the metal frame. There's just a lot going on in these skis. And we've talked about these skis before. They've been in comparisons before. You know, they strike that nice balance of being like performance oriented and powerful, but also approachable.
Yep.
And the example that I've used in the past, I believe in a past comparison video, and I'll use it again here because I think it's the best way to describe these skis, is we've put NCAA racers on these skis and they rip.
Yep.
And like you watch them ski and you're like, well, like I know that's a step down in construction from the 84, but like seems like plenty of ski to me.
Yep, seems like it works.
And then my golfing buddy, Tad, who is, sorry to throw this out there to the world, is 76 years old.
He's a youthful 76.
He totally is, an energetic 76,
Yep.
for sure. This is basically his daily driver.
Yep.
And like he's one of those skiers that like, it's like a lifelong journey to making the best carving turn that he can make. And this ski works perfectly for him. So there's a huge range of skiers out there can enjoy it. And if you're just looking for a very well-rounded, wider carving ski, like when you go skiing, if you spend most of your time on groomers, just carving,
Yep.
this is a great ski. Very responsive. It has like all of the vocal qualities.
Yeah, technical,
Right.
responsive,
Precise.
energetic, precise, all of those things that we always associate with Volkl.
Right.
Yep.
But a little wider, handles variable snow conditions, and a little bit more approachable and user-friendly.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great ski. I think like Volkl should get a lot of credit for giving this category more attention over the last, I don't know, 5-10 years than most other brands.
Yeah.
And here's the result. You know, I'm thinking back to like RTM 84s. Like
Yep.
they've gone through so much progression in these like narrow or wider carving skis, narrow carving focused all mountain skis, and their experience in producing skis like this is evident when you look at the Deacon 80.
And I like the binding system on this as well.
That's like one of the things that I was thinking of, right?
Yeah.
Like their binding, the system binding there is like way more engineered than the system binding of, I guess, any other ski up here. I was looking at that Salomon as like there's some cool elements there, but it's like it's part of the ski.
Yeah, the platform is built into the ski, and then the
Right.
binding parts slide into the platform.
Right.
So it's just a more direct connection to.
They're not drilling a platform onto a ski that then
Yeah.
their binding slides onto, which is how you can describe like pretty much everything else up here,
Right.
where that is actually integrated into the ski. And like I really like to think about what happens from like a physics perspective. Like it's pulling up.
Yeah.
Like if you're getting a higher edge angle, not only are you driving your inside angle, that is more effectively like pulling up on the outside edge, which I think is really cool.
And even if there's no like statistical physics to back that up, the fact that you're thinking about
Right.
it, I think is a huge
and, like,
huge plus.
Visually, you
Yeah.
you can't help but like ignore that.
Nope, it's built into the ski. It's awesome.
Yep.
We got continuing again with the 80 millimeter underfoot, another popular width, Salomon S-Force TI-80. Similar to what we were talking about with Volkl, it's a little bit lighter of a ski. Kind of the swing weight is what makes this thing stick out to me. We do have a very squared off tail shape like what we see with Head. I would say that this rivals the Supershape in terms of it being like zero
Flat, yeah.
taper, just
Yeah.
so flat, so square. But combining that with kind of that lighter swing weight, I think is really effective in giving this some of the most poppy finishing, perspective to compared to the rest of the wall. So the finishing aspect of this turn on the TI-80 stands out to me because of the combination of lightweight and that squared off shape. We also get their edge amplifier underfoot. Jeff was kind of talking about that binding system. So that plate sits in the ski,
Right.
and then the sidewall basically comes up a little bit higher. So you are kind of more enveloped in the ski, which I think is a really nice way of, giving the underfoot zone more power and just more emphasis. 80 underfoot, what do we got here? 16 meter radius in this 177. So pretty standard for what we're talking about here. Again, I think that the big thing that sticks out to me is the lighter swing weight. So just has that feel that is easy to get into the turn, and then you can manipulate the tail because of the weight, but it still gives you that proper feedback. So great option here from Salomon. Certainly contrasts Stance 80 here within the Salomon line in terms of it being far more frontside oriented than all mountain.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
But again, seen some super high level skiing on this. Really just a great choice for someone that's looking for something with a little bit of a different feel and sound to it. So a little bit of a unique ski in that sense, but still just super high performance, really great grip, even for 80 millimeters underfoot. Cool ski.
Were you thinking about the next ski when you mentioned light swing weight?
No, but in the write-up, that was definitely something that
Because,
I took into account.
I mean, great segue. You really teed me up
Yeah.
for success here. This is the PX81 from Kastle, and I don't remember the first time I used the word outlier, but I know I have. Maybe it was here. And this kind of feels like one too,
Yep.
because there's no metal in this ski. So that's really changing its personality. It's got much more of a compliant flex pattern, and then you get that holotech up here. So this tip, am I bending it in half? I don't know.
It looks like it's going right towards your face. From
Yeah,
my perspective.
so-
yeah.
Considerably softer than most
Yeah.
everything else that we've talked about so far. And I think this is a really cool ski for Kastle to build and offer to the public.
Yeah.
We've got so many cool skis from Kastle. I think really you need to kind of focus on the RX line and the MX line. Those skis are very strong, very powerful, very responsive. We could have had the MX75 up here, and even the 83, the MX83 is
Yeah.
kind of falls in those 82 skis that we're going to end with. The PX81 is a great complement to those skis because it's way more approachable. This, an intermediate, a low-level intermediate can get on this ski and have a lot of fun on it, but we've put very high-end skiers on it too, and it's pretty rewarding. And talk about, I think you said that the Stance 80 was the most versatile ski so far. It's important to put so far into there because I would say this is just as versatile and with a little bit more of a premium feel because it's a Kastle.
Yeah.
So it comes along with all that super high-end Kastle quality, their attention to detail, their craftsmanship, just like Stockli. It's top-notch.
Right.
But you're not going to get the most powerful carving performance here. It's not the most torsionally stiff. It's not the most stable at high speeds, but it carves really well at moderate speeds. It's very rewarding. And then you can take it off trail. You can take it into the moguls, and you're not going to get beat up, which I think is really nice. And the swing weight on these skis is it's pretty impressive.
Right.
The tip just feels like nothing. The ski has enough stability underfoot here that you're not going to, doesn't feel like it's going to wash out on you or anything like that. It's so far from being fatiguing. It's easy to ski, it's refreshing, it's fun.
Yeah, and they get that through fiberglass and carbon. So
Right.
as opposed to the metal, we're seeing 2 carbon strips, top and bottom, in that ski.
Yeah, it's just got that springiness to it.
Really just a super poppy one. And we kind of have talked about that move towards more carbon-powered skis in our all-mountain comparisons.
Well, and you brought up a good point when we were back over here on this side of the wall. All these skis that are using some sort of carbon element in the forebody of the ski,
Yep.
I think is really interesting. This is just more than just the forebody.
Yeah, but you can feel it in the energy. You don't have to put as much effort in to get the same amount of rebound.
Exactly.
And that's what I like about like the blend of carbon and fiberglass.
100%. And I think it's like, you know, I think you can always make the argument that like there are more skiers out there in the world. It might not be the majority of the people watching this video,
Right.
but if you take the whole population of skiers, there are more people out there that would benefit from a ski like this or a ski like the Stance 80 than anything else.
Yeah.
Because there are more casual intermediates than there are like ex-racer
Right.
experts.
Elite
That's
skiers.
just
Yeah.
how it works.
Yep.
But great ski.
And now we're moving kind of back into the all-mountain realm with this Blizzard Brahma 82.
But also back into like the 2 sheets of metal realm.
I do like the movement in this
Comparison.
lineup. Yeah,
it's fun.
You know, going from pure Piste 77 to Supershape Rally, I think is a fun move.
To Brahma 82.
Yeah, to Brahma 82, and then as we go on, even more so. But this is one of those skis that borrows from its wider freeride cousins. So if you're thinking Cochise, Bonafide, Brahma 88, down to Brahma 82, we do see more freeride and all-mountain influence in this ski. You know, once we get to these other ones, it's kind of the same. Black Crows and
Declivity,
Armada
yeah.
specifically. But great use of existing technology and application in a narrower format. So true blend Piste wood core should be the same as Thunderbird here. That's kind of, I would say, newer information for us.
It's got the same title.
Same title. I'm saying it's the same thing.
You want to cut them in half?
Yeah. So more beach stringers in
Just
the
a cut to us with a circular saw.
Oh, well. More beach stringers. So more denser wood stringers in this than even what we see in Brahma 88 or Bonafide in that narrower format. So kind of an interesting combination here. You know, this is another one that could have made it to mid-80s category based on its all-mountain application. But I think it works better here because this skier likely isn't going to venture off groomers. They want that potential, but maybe they're not going to do it as much as
No,
they
I think
they're going
there's
to.
more carving focus to that ski than this ski or that Stance or the PX81. So just the fact that it's more carving focused than some skis that are narrower than it, I think it belongs in this conversation.
I love talking to Brad about it. Our warehouse manager, Brad, really spent a lot of time on this. And he's more of that free ride, all mountain skier, you know, skis on an Enforcer and a Reckoner 102. So he gets on this and is pretty blown away at the carving potential of it, but also noted that it doesn't do a whole lot else. So he was very happy in making those linked carving turns. When he tried to break from it, he certainly noticed that the ski didn't appreciate that. So he found it to be more of a one-trick pony, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and I maybe not everyone would have the same reaction.
No, I think that his background and his particular skill set on skis made him feel this way versus someone that may be coming from something narrower and they get on this as even a wider option for them.
Right.
You know, like this is now entering the zone where this could be a mid-range ski in a 3-ski quiver.
Right.
Right. This is your no snow day, whatever you want to do on it.
Right.
But this person could also feasibly have more of a race-oriented ski and then a wider option.
The other thing that I'm thinking about in specific reference to Brad is he might be a little smaller than me even.
Yeah.
And I think like there's a difference in potential application for a ski like that that's somewhat dependent on skier weight. Like I bet you have an easier time taking that into the moguls than Brad or myself.
Right.
Just because you're bigger and the ski's gonna bend a little more. Where like for me and for Brad, it's stiff and heavy, and just like our mass doesn't bend it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's an interesting ski. Definitely has that stiffer flex to it. Very business-like for that narrower all-mountain ski. So
Yeah.
just an interesting blend. And, we did get a comment earlier, like, why don't we pay more attention to this ski? And I think it's because it's a little bit specific.
Yeah. And like, it's interesting now because we have these.
Yep.
And like, I think those Monteros are just, they're giving more attention to this category in general.
Yep.
That Brahma's stiff.
Right.
Like, it doesn't feel as supple as like the Montero AX or AR. So yeah, I think that's like what you're alluding to, where like it's still a strong, more of a strong carving ski than anything else. But I would also add that like an expert skier can just take it anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is the Black Crow's Divus, and it's a great one to piggyback off that Brahma 82 because we're still 82 underfoot here. But if you talk about like approachability and potential use as an all-mountain ski, I think we really like that really goes up quite a bit compared to the Brahma. So this has Black Crow's H-shaped metal, like we see in the Justice, in the Serpo, in the Orb. It really feels like kind of a whole collection of skis now. But that leaves these tips and tails a little softer and a little more compliant.
Yeah.
So like going back to kind of the mogul application, I have an easier time on this ski when I'm trying to be playful and fun rather than the Brahma 82, where when I ski a Brahma 82, I just want to like rail high speed carves. And like, I don't really care about doing anything else because it's so good at that. This doesn't have quite that high-end carving feel. Like you can push through the forebody like way easier and kind of get it to over flex, but it's still a rewarding carving ski and then just like takes the versatility to another level. A little easier to ski than something like that Brahma, considerably lighter too. I almost want to go grab the scale, but I don't think
I can look it up on the internet.
We don't need to do that for these skis, but it does feel lighter, feels a little quicker, a little more compliant, but still like, what do we got for radius? 17 meter radius. It's like one of those skis that makes me feel like a better skier.
Yep.
Because it's so easy to bend, and just makes like, I would say it makes a shorter turn than that 17 meter radius might indicate because you can bend it and manipulate it. And it's like the closest thing that Black Crow's makes to a true dedicated frontside ski.
Yep.
Like they're way more known for those freeride skis like Atris and Kamix and Justice and Nocta and those big skis. And you can feel like the company's heritage in this ski.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it fits in this category, but it has a little bit more of like a freeride personality to it.
Yeah, and it just doesn't require as much focus as
exactly.
Brahma 82.
Yeah, you can get on it and just relax and have a good time.
Yep. But no, really fun, super agile. Again, the narrower version, you had mentioned those wider skis with the metal. This is like the Brahma, the narrowest version of those.
Yeah.
So really kind of an interesting way that they're taking their freeride all-mountain skis and paring it down to that frontside shape.
Yeah, and I can't imagine, like, in the grand scheme of things, people probably don't pay much attention to this ski.
No, that or the Virtus,
Right.
I think, are the overlooked models in Black Crow's line.
Right, but deserves more attention than it gets. It just makes sense because most people think of powder and freeride when they think of Black Crows.
Yeah, that's the funner stuff in the catalog.
That's the cool marketing material.
Yeah. And now we got a Fischer RC One 82 GT. We had the 86 in our mid-80s comparison. A couple of differences between that one and this. We get the thinner metal in the 82 and a different binding. So it's a RS11 binding versus, what is it? It's a 12. It's basically this binding on the 16.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I still am supposed to call all those things PRD or like what the...
Yeah, they changed.
I don't know. It's a PRD 12.
Yeah, different heel piece basically, but overall very similar in terms of construction and application. The big thing with the Fischers is that they use this turn zone in the tips and tails. So the metal shapes towards the middle in the central spine here. They replace the metal free zones with a Baffatex material, which is like a high-end fiber used in like racing sails. So it just makes this zone of the ski easier to get up on edge. If it was that metal full through, it would just make this thing a lot more demanding.
It'd be way different.
Yeah, way different.
It makes a bigger
ski.
difference than I think people would think if you just look at it on like a picture of it on the internet.
Right, or just listen to these words. They're like, well, that doesn't.
Right,
that doesn't
but when you
sound
ski
right.
it, you're like, oh, because it just feels way more like not playful, but versatile and maneuverable than you would think. And that's true with the 86 too.
Yeah, and especially with the 86 with that thicker metal.
Right.
Having that go true tip to tail would be on the abusive side.
Yep.
But this one's just more approachable, quicker edge to edge because it's narrower, and then having that turn zone in the tips and tails really just make this thing easy to get into and out of turns. I think this is more of a ground-oriented ski. It really prefers to be on the snow, and in that realm, it really excels. It gets its versatility through its width and that slightly softer flex in the tips and tails. But overall, I found this to be more at home, really just in a more, I don't want to say conservative, but a more kind of gravity-inspired approach, I guess. So,
Sure.
You're not really loading this thing up to get a ton of energy. It's more of a nice linked carving turn ski. And when you're doing that, this is about as smooth and quiet as it gets. So really impressive from Fischer, and just a great overall choice for that wider bodied carving ski. And I think as we're getting into these 82 systems, so this one, the Elan, and even the Rossignol, we are seeing that wider bodied carving ski really start to take form. So pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, totally. And I feel like there's some similarities between that ski and this next ski, this Experience 82 Ti. They just feel a little different.
Yeah.
This ski to me feels like, I don't know if compliant is the right word, maybe a touch easier to ski.
I would say so. Just, I think rocker is kind of entering the chat here.
More so than that RC One. Yeah. So this ski is a full carryover from last year, same graphic and everything. The last year when we were talking about this, that was really like a big change for Rossignol. It was like the third overall version that we've got of Experience skis, and I think by far it's the best one yet.
It's awesome.
So what they did is they extended the side cut again, which is going back to like the original version of the Experience skis, but they retained like the rocker that we saw in the second version of the Experience skis, and I think that's kind of the sweet spot here. And then the construction has evolved too. I think these skis have a great feel. It's kind of like, it makes me think of Volkl and just how they put like a ton of technology in it. There's a lot of different stuff going on inside of this ski. Carbon, metal, wood. There's a lot. That like drive tip solution that like has firmer, denser fibers up here and then lets it absorb into more like visco rubber material in here. There's a lot of cool stuff going on in this ski, but like we were saying, I don't really care what's going on inside the ski. It's more just like the experience that you have on these skis. They're so much fun. This tip shape with this rocker just like rips you into a turn, like really helps promote a carving turn, which I think maybe an intermediate would want to look at the basalt version of this skis rather than the TI, but I think this is a very approachable ski, and I think it's something that could be used as like a tool to improve your carving turns.
Yep.
And then it's still pretty darn versatile. You did it more on the 86. You were skiing some moguls on the 86, but there's no reason why you can't do that on this ski too. And I think that's really where Rossignol has kind of nailed it, and they've used everything that they've learned in the Experience skis overall, and these skis are the best carving Experience skis we've ever had, and I would also say that they're the best off trail. And I think that's really interesting that they've achieved that, like both superlatives there. I think the 86 is the highlight in this new collection of skis. I think more skiers will choose the Experience 86 Ti than this 82 Ti, and I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you want it to be a little quicker edge to edge, or if you live in an area where you get less fresh snow, then I would point you to this ski. But either one, they're both super fun to ski.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, that 4 millimeters in width doesn't make a huge difference for like soft snow. It's more of a preference for, do you want this wider bodied format for more mass, like I personally do?
Sure.
Or do you want a little bit more quickness and agility? And that's where the 82 really comes in handy.
Yep.
But yeah, I think these are, you hit it. Like, it's just the best experience that we've seen in terms of shape and construction, and that's just kind of evolution.
Yeah.
You know?
No, and they've been like, the Experience line in general has been, if not one of the most popular collections of skis over the last decade. And it's just cool to see the evolution into these new skis. And it's also interesting that they've shifted narrower as a collection. Like, we used to have an Experience 100.
There's a 100, yeah.
Yeah, which was like weird.
It was rugged.
Yeah. And it's cool to see just like, it's not just the evolution with Rossignol, I'd say it's the evolution with the ski industry right now. Like, things are shifting a little narrower, where they're like taking a line of all mountain skis that's like a little more focused on carving than like powder. And they're like, okay, yeah, we don't need to build this in 100.
Right.
Like 86 is plenty. So I just think that's interesting.
And an interesting segue to Declivity 82 Ti. I think that was a good one because Declivity does have 102,
92, 108.
Yep, 108. And then even an 88.
X.
Yep.
What's the Declivity X? That's a little different.
But they, same thing that we talked about with Brahma here and even Black Crows. This is the narrow version of their free ride / all mountain division. Same construction as the 102 and the 92 with their articulated Titanal banding. And this ski does a great job of blending those front side carving attributes with a free ride personality. So lighter, quicker, very similar, I would say, to Divus.
Extremely similar, yeah.
And, excuse me, just like a great option for someone that doesn't want to think too hard about what they want to get on. They want something approachable and that is well-rounded and that they just don't want to think too hard about. And I think that's where this thing comes in. And they do a great job of keeping the metal in there while having it be approachable and easy to use. So it's not like an overly demanding Brahma 82 in terms of its character. And I think that's part of Declivity as a whole, where it's they use the metal, they have a strong build, but they don't feel like they're punishing you. So I think this is a very
similar
choice.
Conversation between Brahma 88 and Declivity 92, where like they're in the same world of like similar width, use metal, all mountain skis. But yeah, Declivity is a little more playful, a little more compliant. Brahma's a little stronger overall.
Yeah, and not a whole lot of rocker in this one either. So pretty well cambered ski, and we've seen that with the wider versions as well. So you are getting that pop and that rebound out of this one. That tail does like to bump out a little bit and really gives you a nice strong kick at the end of the turn. But I mean, for my money, this is one of the most well-rounded skis up here for sure. Definitely would be a top choice for a daily driver so far. I think that this thing really blends all mountain skiing and frontside performance very effectively.
Yep.
But light, agile, quick, super damp, really fun.
And last ski up here, fun one to end with. This is the Wingman 82 CTI from Elan. We talk about Elan a lot, but typically we're talking about ripsticks.
Yep.
And a lot of the same concepts kind of carry over to these Wingman skis. They're just more focused on carving. I think we did a full review of the 86 CTI probably less than a year ago. Was that 2 years ago?
That was 2 years ago.
Gosh. Anyways, those skis are basically the same. And what we have in these skis is we have the left and right ski. We have this like raised titanal portion.
Yep.
And then we get carbon rods too. So we've talked about those carbon rods a lot and how they provide more vibration damping than a flat sheet of carbon. I think it's like really important in the ripsticks that they use those carbon rods because there's some metal in here. You're less reliant on the carbon rods for vibration damping, and it's more that they're just boosting the ski's energy.
Yeah.
So this ski, to me, at least among the 82 millimeter skis over there, is the most energetic by a fairly significant margin.
Yeah, I'd say a mile.
Yeah,
Yep.
this thing just like launches you out of a carving turn, and it is incredibly rewarding. I will say that like maybe not everyone is looking for that feel. Like this compared to the Experience 82, that ski feels smoother.
Yep.
Or what ski you were saying, the RC One feels more like ground oriented. This, you're probably staying on the ground more often than not, but it feels so much more like bouncy and springy.
Yeah, that's way poppier and more air oriented than the Fischer, I would say.
Didn't I fall really hard
On the 86?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I like kind of over flexed it and it like shot me out of the turn so much. So that's really fun. You know, it put me on my side. Your kids got a good laugh out of it.
They still talk about it.
The day that I fell, yeah. Have to fall in front of your children more often, I guess. But that was kind of a unique scenario where it like almost surprised me, or maybe I flexed it a little more than I thought. More often than not, it makes the ski more rewarding.
Right.
Because you get that just powerful kind of springy finish to a turn, and it's got to be one of those skis that makes you feel like a better skier.
Yeah, and we got 82 CTI, TI, 86 CTI, TI. The TI versions just drop the tubes.
Yep.
So same ski without the carbon tubes.
A little less springy.
So you're losing out on that energy if you go with the TI version, but you're still getting that damp and stable ride. So
yeah.
Pretty interesting how they have 4 skis. It's basically like what Rossi does with Experience,
Very
TI,
similar.
and Basalt.
But I would say there are more similarities between the CTI and the TI than there are between Experience TI and Experience Basalt.
Yep, I would agree.
But great skis, very rewarding, flashy colors.
Yeah, I like that about them.
Good job, Elan. You know, I guess there's some cool colors up here, but I feel like not everyone's as willing to put an orange top sheet on their skis. And the 86 CTI is like neon green.
Yeah. I'm surprised there's not more yellow like Supershape Speed.
Right.
Like that, and then like the Scott sidewall is the only yellow, and I kind of feel like yellow is a fast. Yeah. A lot of red.
A lot of red and orange up here. They're fast colors too. But yeah, if you're just looking for a very rewarding carving ski, take a look at these Wingman skis. Yeah. You know, they're not quite as versatile as like a Ripstick 88. You can still take them off trail. You know, they're not going to beat you up if you take them into the moguls or anything like that. And just, super springy, super rewarding, very, very energetic.
Yeah.
Fun ski to end on.
I think so too.
And that's it. So hopefully that was enough skis. You know, like I said at the beginning of the video, we could have broken this up into more different individual categories. It just didn't feel like that would be as interesting of a comparison or conversation.
No, and I think we did due diligence of explaining that these have more counterparts, you know, that there are other skis that are cousins, narrower, wider, and you can make your choice thereof.
Yep. Hero Masters.
Yep.
A slew of different lasers.
Yep. Tons of blizzards.
Race Tigers, Deacons. I had a lot of fun on that Race Tiger RC.
Yep.
Like, that's a ski that doesn't get talked about very often. And I got to ski that, I think we were in Waterville. And I was like, this ski's really cool.
It's great.
Like, more people should buy this than a Race Tiger GS.
Right.
So definitely let us know if you have more questions. There's a ton more frontside skis out there. Ski test would be a good place to spend some time if you watched this video and you were really interested in all this stuff. If you like watch all of the Frontside ski test videos in a row, it would be like your own customized
Comparison video, yeah.
So if you're interested in some other stuff that maybe you didn't see up there, check out the ski test, leave comments, give us a call. We got like a team of customer service people down there.
Right.
They're eagerly waiting your calls. They're probably going to hate me.
They're going to kill you.
No, seriously, we have a building full of skiers, and we're more than happy to talk more about any of these skis. Bob, anything that you'd like to add about Frontside skis before we finish?
I think that everyone should own a ski on this wall, or something that we've discussed.
I think so, 100%. And when we do the 108 plus powder ski comparison, I do not think everyone out there should own a ski in that category. So I think that's really cool. And even like the 100 millimeter category, like I wouldn't say that as confidently. I think every skier out there, if you can make it happen, you should own a ski in this category, because you're going to make your bad days good days.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's a really cool thing to do.
Well, yeah, like there are no bad days. Like on that Thunderbird, I'm like, there's no day that's bad enough skiing that makes me not want to ski this.
Remember when we skied that day with Nordica, and it was like almost dangerous because you couldn't stop?
Yeah.
And there were like a bunch of people that like probably were going into the woods because you couldn't stop. That was still a bad day.
That was bad,
but that's like one in 10 years you're gonna have a day that's as bad as that day. So take a look at these skis up here. Consider getting yourself a narrower ski. I would strongly recommend it. Let us know if you have any questions, and we'll see you out there on the slopes.
Bye.